Greg, and if you could just tell us a little bit about your background and...
Sure. I think I broke the mic though.
Okay.
May have to hold it.
Oh, well, here.
I got this, it's fine. I'm good like this. I'm Fred DeCola, Omega Industries is my company. We're an elevator consulting, testing, and expediting company. We do a lot of violation clearing also. So what I'm going to talk about here is the elevator contracts a little bit, but the violations, and how we try and prevent the violations. I have a presentation prepared. I'm going to go through it at any time. Please stop me, ask me questions as is current. I'm really here for you. I'm here to educate you on things because I get calls all day about these issues of, hey, my Cat 1 had this problem. I got this PVT from the DOB. Okay. How do I get rid of this violation? How do I prevent this stuff from happening in the future? So those are some of the things that I'm going to hit upon. What I like to always start out with, though, is numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I like to give the numbers out. Right now, there's 62,000 elevator devices throughout the 5 boroughs. 62,000. There's 90,000 inspections performed annually on those 62,000 elevators. There's 36,000 violations written out annually. Okay. An elevator takes 500 trips a day. If you go through the whole U.S. market, 12% of the elevators are in New York City. Okay, so if you look at that concentration, 12% of them are here. I always like to say that elevators are the safest form of travel. And usually people laugh at me and say, what do you mean safest form of travel? Well, if you think about it, yeah, you aren't booking a ticket to get on it, but you are going up and down. And if you think of those numbers that I just told you about, I mean, there's a lot of units with a lot of travel here in our market. So. Right now with your maintenance, every elevator has to have a maintenance contract on it. Okay, so that's one of the Cat 1 questions someone's asking before. So if you have a little small dumbwaiter, you should have a contract on a dumbwaiter. Okay, even if you have...
So must. Is it New York State or New York City law?
New York City. New York City.
Must, not should,
Must.
right?
Yes, so the big issue I see is a lot of building managers have a building and they know their core 5 elevators, but there's always this ugly one over there that no one wants to look at or talk about. Right? That's the one though that's going to cost you a lot of money. So now I want everyone to be proactive and get on board with those ugly ones because the ugly ones, they're not going away and they're going to cost you a fortune. I see it every day. A lot of my customers, we advise them if you're not using it, just take it out of service. Take it out of service and stop the bleeding right then and there. The other problem that I have with a lot of my customers who have big buildings is they'll manage a building and there'll be 20 elevators inside the building. And then they'll have 5 stores. And one of the the stores are leased to these large companies that are across the country. Usually those stores don't do what they're supposed to do. Because there's some national accounts guy in Chicago who's not in New York, and he really doesn't know that the elevator has to be tested. Or doesn't know when the elevator violation comes in and has to be taken care of. Or doesn't even know the violation exists, because when the city came in and gave the violation, they handed it to someone who just either threw it out or didn't get it to the right person. So even though those stores are leased, and they're not your responsibility as of right now, once they move out, they turn into a nightmare for you. And I can tell you I deal with this every day. And how it turns out to a nightmare is now they moved out, and yes, you're going to win a lawsuit against them. You're going to get your money back, I guarantee it. It's going to be maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, but the problem you're going to have is when you go to rent that space, your new tenant can't move in. Okay, so why can't your new tenant can't move in? They can't get a C of O. Okay, so even though you have this big fancy store in your building, you should still educate yourself with them and make sure that they're doing the right thing with their elevator. Okay, I mean, I have some customers now who, in their contracts with these people, they let the owner of that store take care of the elevator for maintenance-wise, but they write in their contract right there that the elevator testing will be done by the building. So the building then knows that the elevators are being tested and that the violations are being taken care of by themselves. So just something that everyone has in the store out there. Very easy. You can do a quick check on the unit and make sure that they're doing everything which you're supposed to be doing. Do you have any questions on that? Because that's a big piece that, like I said, we find all the time, and now it's something that we're trying to rush around and help someone get things done.
So it sounds like, and in the security deposit for this lease, the initial lease, you always look at all the possible risks.
Yes.
And so I've never thought about that. And that little internal elevator that goes from level 2 to 3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, everyone shops, you've been in stores, Fifth Avenue, right? You take the escalator down, take the elevator, right? But think about it, they're inside the big building. And at the end of the day, if they move out, that big building is the one who then has to own all the stuff. So just something to kind of think about, because I see it happens, and it's a nightmare. So I'm going to talk about Category 1, Category 5 testing right now. It's been a couple years with the Category 1, Category 5. It started in 2009 with the third-party witnesses. I feel personally that the elevators aren't getting safer. I feel because some of the stuff we were writing up early on, you don't see that stuff, and each year it seems like the punches are getting less and less. That's a good thing. The building owners are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Doesn't have to. When you do your Category 1, right, you have that whole calendar year to do the Category 1. So you can do it anytime between January and the end of the year. The Category 5 is a different story. The Category 5 is due the month that it's due. So if you have a Category 5, it's really a 60-month test. 60 months. It's not really the 5th year that it's due, like the Category 1. That's a big mistake that a lot of people do. They say, okay, well, yeah, they call me, hey, Greg, yeah, my Cat 5s are due this year. Great. Yeah, but I don't want to do it until October. Okay, well, guess what? The Cat 5 is due in February. So now that we're 2 months past that, you're already being fined. So what I like to do with a lot of my customers is turn the cycle around and make it a 58-month process. So instead of scheduling 60 months, I schedule 2 months earlier. So if there's any issue with it, you can get that elevator fixed 2 months prior. So now we have 2 months to play with. Because if your test is due, let's use May, in the month of May, and we decide that we're going to do your test on May 30th, and it fails, right? Once you get that elevator fixed, it may take 3-4 weeks. Guess what? We're into June now, right? You're already paying the fine. So that's why I like to do it all my tests, cycle-wise. I've been 2 months earlier. It's something that you should definitely think about. Some of my customers say, well, Greg, yeah, you're doing it 2 months earlier, and then if I do the next time it's 2 months earlier, and look, by the time we're at that, you're 30 years, so it's fine. But I'd much rather have the 2 months grace. The issue with the Category 5s, a Category 1 can be submitted to DOB unsatisfactory. Okay, Category 5 cannot. So if your Category 5 elevator fails, the elevator shut down until it can pass. So that's always a big misconception. Oh, people call me, hey, how did my Cat 5 test do? Like, well, if the elevator's not shut down, it went well. If it gets shut down, we got a problem. So that's just something about the satisfactories and unsatisfactories. So now let's talk about the Cat 1s and the unsatisfactories. So if you have a Category 1 test that's unsatisfactory, right? Me as a third party, I have 45 days, calendar days, to send my report down to the DOB after it gets signed by 5 people. Okay, so 5 people have to sign that form. Okay, the building owner or rep, elevator company inspector, elevator company director, third party inspector, third party director. That's 5 people. Okay. That all has to be done in 45 calendar days. If it's not done within that 45 days, it goes back to a late filing. A late filing means that you have to pay your money back. Once that paperwork is filed, you then, as the owner, rep, manager, has 45 business days to correct the unsatisfactories. Okay, servant says, oh, that's great, I have 90 days. You really don't. This is where you really have to get involved with your elevator contractor and your third party. And what you have to find out is what day your paperwork was submitted to the city. If your paperwork was submitted 10 days after the test and you have an unsatisfactory, you don't have 90 days anymore. Okay, you have 45 calendar days after that test day. So this is the timeline of what you really have to get involved with your third party and find out what day they're submitting those unsatisfactories. Okay, a thing that we like to do in my office, if you have an unsatisfactory, I'll try and maximize your time as much as I possibly can. But that's something very, very important. If you have an unsatisfactory, you have to make sure that you know the date that your stuff was submitted. Because then once it was submitted, that's when your clock starts ticking. Any question on that? Go ahead.
Yeah. Is it possible, maybe that,
I'm sorry. Is it possible to get an extension on that 45 days on both sides? For example, I just recently did my category 1. I hired my third party. While he did the test, by the way, he did a performance evaluation as well. So on the side, I have a report from my elevator company to help them maintain the elevators properly. But separate from that, I got a violation on category 1 unsatisfactory condition for not having Z brackets on the elevator doors. 8-inch bracket goes on the bottom, which prevents the elevator door from passenger side from falling into the pit should somebody push against it. Now I'm being told that we need these Z brackets. Nobody knew they weren't there, they were missing. It was picked up in the report. The problem is I have 10 elevators, 50-story building, 500 doors. There's no way we're going to put 500 clips in within 45-day period. Can you get an extension?
The bad news is you can't get an extension. Cannot. You can circumvent your own extension by telling them not to file your paperwork, have the work done, and then hire everyone to do your test again before the end of the year. That's the only way how you can kind of, I guess, beat the system. So that's really the only way how you can extend that time. Is say, okay, you know what, guys, I paid you. Don't submit my paperwork. I'm gonna do my test again before the end of the year. But you're gonna have to pay everyone a second time to perform the test, to witness the test. So
I would think though,
I would think the concern is, exposure, liability. I mean, if you get 45 days to put the paperwork in as a third party, and you get 45 days to fix it, so now we're like 3 months out, 2.5 months out. You can't go past that.
Well, you can go past that. If you go past that, you're going to be late filing, and that's $150 per elevator per month. So that's the other thing you can do is do your late filing, as long as you know now you're $150 per elevator per month. Right? Or once they submit that forms, and you're going to not fix it within your 45 days, you're going to get then, the DOB is going to then issue fines on that also, $250 a month. So any way you cut it, it's going to cost you money. Some of the things that a lot of people are starting to do with us now is we're doing the evaluations or Cat 1 pre-test prior to the Cat 1s. So we're coming in now, January, February, March is what all my guys were doing, and we gave the punch list to you and the elevator company saying, hey, this is your Cat 1 failure that we see. This is also your maintenance evaluation, which is wrong. Then at that point, once your stuff is done, give us a call, we'll come in, we'll schedule the Cat 1, and now your Cat 1 should be good. Providing that nothing happens between those days. Question in the back.
What's being done to change the system? Because obviously it's flawed.
I know from day one, I've been trying to fight the city on the 45 and 45. Because to me, it's not fair what they're doing to you guys with the 45 days, and with us with the 45 days also. And then the flip side of that is, what I always tell the DOB is, okay, you give me 45 days, great. I comply with you, I do everything in my 45 days. Can I get my test reports back in 45 days? I know I can't. I'm just getting tests now that we did in September. I'm getting them back now. So just to show you kind of the DOB pressures. But what you guys really have to do, I know some of the other real estate groups have formed like a mini subgroup to try and fight this with the city or have your voice heard with the city with this stuff. Because they're really coming after you guys as the building managers, owners, hard with these elevators and with the elevator fines. While we're talking about the fines, I'll give you, if you were to miss a Cat 1 for a calendar year, anybody know how much the fine is for a Cat 1 miss?
3,000?
$3,000 per elevator, not per building, per elevator. So remember that little dumb waiter I was talking about over there that's hiding that's real ugly? Well, guess what? You didn't test him since 2009, 10, 11, 12, right? And it's not just one fine each year. It keeps going up. If you were not to do your Category 5 test, right, $5,000, a $5,000 fine, non-negotiable per elevator. Okay, and what happens, I can tell you, the sneaky one that gets everyone on the Cat 5 is a device called a roped hydraulic elevator. So most people now are savvy enough with their traction elevators know that they need to have a 5-year test. But there's these things out there called the roped hydraulic elevator. The roped hydraulic elevator, you need to know whether they have one or not. If you have the roped hydraulic elevator that has a safety device on it, that needs a Category 5 test. And there's really no way of knowing through the DOT. So if you were to look up, go on the New York City Biz System, look up your elevator, you can't tell if it's a roped hydraulic or not. You really have to talk to your elevator company or your maintenance company. But those are the ones that I see get missed all the time. And those are the ones where someone calls me, hey, I just realized I roped hydraulic, my 5-year test was due last year, what do I do? Oh, you gotta pay your fine. Do the test anyway, but you definitely pay the fine. Okay, so roped hydraulics are always missed. Any questions on the part of it? Okay. Going on with the violations, right? There's a couple different types. The ECB violations. Everyone knows what those are. Those are the Environmental Control Board. Those are ones where you have to go to court. It's a court hearing. Okay. A lot of times, the building super will get that piece of paper, and he won't bring it to the main office for a couple days, and then it gets lost, and then a couple weeks go by, and a month goes by, and guess what? You just missed your court hearing. So what do you do then? You're going to pay a big fine because you didn't go to court. So you have to stress your building personnel anytime in New York City, inspectors in your building, whatever paperwork they leave, they have to get it to you that day. That day. Because it happens all the time. The paperwork gets lost, and someone will call me and they're like, hey Greg, I just realized that we had a court date last week. What do you think we can do? I'm like, well, unless you got that time machine, you aren't doing much except for paying a big fine. So you can try and reopen.
Can you repeat the question, please?
They were asking if you can go to the city if you can reopen. You can reopen, but you also have to be aware of it. And then I've had customers where we fought to reopen these for them, and then they missed their court date again. So it's only you bring a horse to water, right? And you have to make him drink. But I mean, the main thing is to stress to your employees who are on the front line of the building to get whatever paperwork is left to you. The days of where people sit back and will figure it out when it happens and the fine is that, no, that's not. Now with this stuff, you have to be as proactive as you possibly can. You got to be on top of everything with these elevators because the numbers, it just multiplies. And the worst part is the C of Os. If you try and get refinancing, you can't. And if you're trying to close, I mean, I had it happen downtown. There were 6 small buildings. They knocked them down and put up one huge building. Right? Had a demo permit. Great. There were 6 sidewalk elevators, one in each building, that no one took a permit out for. They were trying to close on all these condominiums, and they could not close because they couldn't make the C of O. We had to go down there, take permits out for all these units that aren't there anymore, and go through the system. And I can tell you, the owner was telling me that he was gonna lose $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 per week that he could not close. So just something to get out there with the C of O. The C of Os turn into a huge headache because it always has to happen now. So you can't do anything until your building's clean.
Right. And the C of O also translates into leasing space, because there are many companies who will not lease space unless you have the proper C of O for the building.
Yes. So the C of O turns into, usually when someone calls my office and they have a C of O problem, it's one of those, okay, everyone's gonna drop everything, we gotta get working on this right now. Because, you know, it always ends up that someone's trying to do something and it's a time-sensitive issue. And working with the city, as much time-sensitive as you wanna be, they're not gonna move that quick. Right? We used to be able, last year, to go to the DOB and tell them, hey, this customer's going for C of O, we can pretty much like leapfrog up to the head start. What happened though is everyone was saying we're getting a C of O and everyone's trying to leapfrog. And so, you know, I'm not saying that everybody wasn't getting a C of O, but that's what was going on. And now it's kind of, all right, we got to go through the mud, and we got to stick in the mud and we're slowly moving. The other thing with the ECBs, to clear those violations, it's a bit of a process, right? It's letters from you, the owner, letters from the elevator company. It's either a bank check or cash, so it's not going to be a company check. So it gets real messy. Does anyone have any ECB questions over here now? Because everyone's clean, no one's got ECBs?
In regard, no, I don't need. In regards to the elevator pit, who is responsible to clean out the pit? Is it the elevator service company or is it the superintendent? And where's the line?
Okay, I can tell you from being an elevator guy my whole career. I started fixing elevators, and managing, and now I'm consulting. You do not want your building personnel in that pit. I don't care if it saves you $10,000 a year. I've seen many lawsuits happen because your personnel are trying to move the elevator to get to the pit, and they're not moving it the right way, and they get hurt, and there's problems. So, me personally, all of my contracts that I write, the building personnel does not go in that pit. Even if it has a door and it's a walk-in pit, doesn't matter. When I worked at Otis Elevator, we had a huge lawsuit in one of the big buildings here because they had a walk-in pit. And they had a walk-in pit, and the guy opened the door, right, and there was a switch on the door that's supposed to stop the elevator. Well, someone put a stick in that switch. So now the guy's there, he's sweeping around. The traveling cables, which you can look on the diagram Dummel gave us. Traveling cables, grab the guy by his, he had a radio. Remember the old radios that everyone had? The radios on the back of his belt? Grabbed them, took them up 4 floors, and then dropped them. Okay, so you do not want your personnel in that elevator pit. You know, like I said, you can probably save yourself, you know, some money over the year, but trust me, it's not worth it. And a lot of times also, I've had it where the building personnel that were in the pit, they shut the elevator down because they didn't know not to sweep around the switch or this or that. So it's better to keep your personnel outside, but the elevator people do their thing.
Okay, so there's probably not a building department or state or government law that says they can't from a mechanical standpoint, but it sure sounds like an OSHA issue to me.
Yeah,
So,
to me, it's liability. The liability of it is huge, it really is. And also let the elevator guys do what they do. You know, there's something that, you know, it's in their scope. All of my contracts, it's written that the elevator company cleans the pits.
okay, so maybe we could just have a quick comment. Fujitech, as far as the pits, do we make buildings aware, keep your staff out, or is it, you know, a recommendation or an absolute in the contract? Because we can have contract laws say stay out.
Yeah, we just, you know, we talk to our building managers and supers and let them know that the elevator stuff is ours, and building personnel to kind of just steer clear. Every once in a while, a guy wants to come into the motor room, even help paint, like we don't even know paint. Just let us do all the elevator stuff, and the building guys do all the buildings.
Okay, but this is not in the contract. No one ever mentions this aspect in the contract. You know,
That particular language is not in the contract, but it's implied. Communicate.
And it's usually never checked if something happens.
Right.
well, okay, that's why we're talking about it, so, okay.
That's always a big problem. Yes, sir.
How do you evaluate a third-party firm to do the work?
As far as if you're going to select one, you know, how do you know who you? I mean, the best thing is to talk to your friends who manage other buildings and say, hey, you know, I'm looking for a new consultant / third party. Who have you had success with? You know, because you talk to some people have had a lot of problems, some people have had wonderful experiences. You know, so I would really talk around, you know, the word of mouth thing to me is always, I gotta sell it. The other thing which you can do, and you should do, is you should always check the DOB to make sure that your third party is licensed. Right? Even though it sounds silly that the third party is not licensed, there are a lot of people out there who are not licensed. And they're just selling the work and using someone else. You know, so there's a couple of little things there that you have to really watch out for. I know at the end of the day, pricing is always an issue, right? The bottom line is the bottom line. I can tell you from customers that I lost for $10 per elevator, gladly came back to me the following year when they found out that the third party held their paperwork up, didn't file it on time. You know, I've heard all the nightmare stories. So, you know, that's why I really want to be proactive with them and talk to them. Hey, my test is today, great. My 45th day should be this day. What day you bring the paperwork down? That follow up that week, email, phone call. Hey, I know you know, my paperwork was supposed to go down. Did it go down? What's the date it went down? So now you know, especially on unsatisfactories, you know when your clock is ticking together.
We have a question.
So I have a question. Who is responsible to file those categories? The third party or the elevator?
You can, as of right now, in New York City, either of them can file it for you. Okay. Personally, with my company, I file everything myself because I like to control the paper. I control the paper because I'm working for you. So I work for you.
Okay, but Greg, the law
Yes,
says,
but they do, but I'm the third party that's the watchful eye for you.
The third party should be.
The third party should. A lot of third parties don't like to file the paperwork because it's a hassle. You know, it's, you know, and my staff who's here can tell you, it's a hassle that we have that paperwork, and then you know, some of them I'm holding for customers to certain dates and this and that. It's a definite hassle for us, but for me, I feel it's the right thing to do for you as a customer. Because if you have problems with violations, I'm the one who can help you with
the
it.
law says the owner is responsible, and then the owner gets to choose who they're going to contractually make responsible.
Yeah, basically, if you look at the ELV3s, whoever goes in box 4, goes to whatever box 4, that's the person who's going to file it.
Okay, but they're just allowing others to file, but the
Yeah,
owner,
well,
meaning the property manager, is responsible to make sure it happens.
Oh,
The
definitely.
violation goes other, right, so
Definitely.
the should can be whoever is contractually bound,
Yes, yep.
but it's the owner and then ultimately the
And I
property
can tell
manager.
you, the majority of elevator companies that I deal with like that I do the paperwork. It's one less thing for them to worry about. They got enough going on. They got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of curveballs being thrown at them. You know, they'd rather let me handle that for them.
Okay,
Question
Edie,
over
go
here?
ahead.
Yeah, hi, if someone drops their keys or their iPhone down the elevator, who should be getting it? Can the super get it? Or do you, because it's dangerous, or should we wait till an elevator person comes?
Okay, you should wait and call the elevator company and let them get it. They're going to charge you for it, but I can tell you in the long run, it's going to be much better that they get it because of the liability issue. You don't want people going into pits. You know, I remember when I was fixing elevators 100 years ago. I walked into a building and there were two guys like laying on the floor trying to figure out how to get themselves down in there to get their keys. I'm like, what are you guys doing? The doors are closing on the guy's shoulder. I'm like, what's going on here? Sure enough, the guy dropped his keys in the pit. I'm like, give me 5 minutes, I'll get it for you. But you should contact the elevator company. You know, let them do it for you. Like I said, unfortunately, they're going to charge you for it. You know, but those are things that, you know, one of the things to piggyback on, we were saying earlier about the contracts. What I like to do in a lot of my contracts is when you sign your maintenance contract, I like the elevator company to give you kind of the menu of prices on the back page. So now you know if you want overtime on Saturday, how much it is right there. If you know the keys are in the pit, there's that price right there for you. You know, it just makes things much easier. You know, if your testing's not covered in your contract, which all my new contracts now, I put testing in there for you. But some people don't want it because they say, okay, I'm going to be paying a higher maintenance price right than because they're putting the testing in there. I would rather them at least put the price there. So Cat 1 will cost X amount of dollars, Cat 5 costs X amount of dollars.
What I'd like, is there any other commentary from any
You
other,
have a question? Right over
oh, was
there.
there a question? Oh.
I just have a question. If you're putting testing in your contracts, does that usually include like corrections, if it's unsatisfactory or rejected?
Yeah, that's,
Okay, repeat the question.
okay, the question was, if you do put testing in there, are your violations really covered in there also? Okay, if you have a full-service elevator contract, so the full-service contract that he was talking about earlier today, that means everything is covered from soup to nuts. The majority of the time, whatever your violations are, they're going to be covered, unless they come to building items. And everyone usually knows the building items are the door, the fire extinguisher, the phone line that everyone likes to shut off on us, right? So there's probably 8 or 9 owner items there, which you can really back. But if you have a good contract, your violations should be covered. But if you're doing your test every year, just like you're supposed to, if you have a consultant to come in and do the maintenance evaluation, not at the same time as the test, right? The maintenance evaluation should be done separately from the test. There's no way anyone should be doing a maintenance evaluation at the same time you're doing a Category 1 test. It's not fair to you as the owner, it's not fair to the elevator company, right? So that's something you have to stress also, is if when you're working with the elevator companies and you're going to get them to do the maintenance evaluation for you and your testing, you want to get dates from them. Doesn't be exact date right now, but if you're signing a contract in January, okay, if people want, Greg, okay, we're doing our MEs, when? I'm going to do them for you in February. Great, I'm going to give you a report, and then we're going to schedule your test in June. They should not all happen at the same date. Right? Because you want to take that maintenance evaluation, give it to your elevator company, and hey, here's your master clean it, and then we'll test it. Go ahead.
If you would like to pick the right company, third-party consulting company, what kind of people should be a part of this? Should it be engineer? Should it be field man? Like, who is making decisions for modernization, let's say, for this whole?
If you're looking for, like we're saying, if you're looking for a good third-party consulting company, you want to kind of question them. You want to interview them, right? And make sure that they're capable. Make sure they have their licenses. How many licensed people do they have working for them? The license that they have to have is a New York City agency. So they have to have a New York City agency. That's the first thing. The second thing then is they have to have New York City elevator inspectors that are underneath them. And it's very easy now. New York City made it very easy with their website. You can go there and there's the whole thing. It's called Check My Contractor. And you basically put the name in. You can put the individual's name in. You can put the company name in. No, this is on the DOB. Yeah, you go to your NYC, NYC.gov.
But who should be responsible for reviewing the scope of modernization?
On the modernization, your best bet is to get an outside elevator consultant. If you go to your current elevator maintenance contractor, and I don't want to beat on the elevator guys, but a lot of times they're going to direct you where they want to direct you. And sometimes they're right. And I can tell you, great before, very honest, what you're saying. Some of the companies, aren't like that. And they're going to want to steer you down their path. And sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But at least if you have someone who's working for you,
Should it be engineer or field man? Who should it be?
well, what you really want to do is you want to get a mix of a company of someone who has people that have prior field knowledge, and that they were prior field knowledge that they've done the installs, that they've been at the higher level of the supervisors and the, fixing the elevators. Those kind of people we want them, because those are the people that that did the install in a previous life, and they know exactly what they're doing and how, and what's good about that is that they can run the schedule for you. That's what I usually do, is I pretty much take the whole elevator portion away from you.
There is no so-called architect or engineer. It mostly field guy.
Well, yeah, because most of the time the architects and engineers were never elevator guys. The architects and engineers, architects, so a lot of times what you want to get the elevator guy. Guys who had experience who did the job.
Okay, but the engineer who's going to sign off on this at the building department still has to be a PE, correct?
When you do your permit, So when we get to the permitting process, right, basically the elevator company gets all the drawings for you, and then there has to be an engineer that's gonna stamp them. So basically the drawings come from, yeah, the elevator company makes the drawings, they send them to the consultant and the owner, and then the owner and the consultant approve them. Then they go for the permit process where at that point we're stamped by PE.
Okay, but before the drawings are made, the drawings are from specs. The specs are from a PE who is an elevator specialist.
Most of the
Or got
time, no, most of the time the specs are from an elevator consultant.
Okay,
So,
consultant,
it's gonna come
okay.
from us, yeah.
Okay, but
Has the PE, that's what.
he doesn't have to be, right. he
Most,
doesn't
I
have
can
to-
tell you, most of the consulting companies don't have PEs. They don't, like, for me personally, for my business, I don't need a PE. Because to certify the stuff, I don't need to certify it right now. I just need to know that I took a look at your elevator and you need to change this, and this, from a practical standpoint.
Oh, okay, so it's in the filing of the documents.
It's in the
That's
filing
when
of
it
the
has to be
documents where it
stamped
gets
with the
stamped,
PE.
yes.
Right,
Yes.
so that PE is willing to take the responsibility
Yeah.
of someone else who drew up the specs.
Yep. You got a question over here, sir?
I want to change elevator companies. I want to hire a third party consultant. What is the price range that I should be looking at for someone to do the evaluation? What comes out?
It can range anywhere, it's basically depends
Question.
on, okay. The question was, I want to hire someone to do a maintenance spec for me to get rid of my existing elevator company. How much should I pay? And it's going to depend on the type of building you are, the size of your building, how many elevators you have, what kind of equipment you have. I mean, so basically when I go and survey that job, I'm looking at how much work it's going to be for me. You know, how many hours? You know, it's going to be 10 hours, it's going to be, 50 hours. You know, that's how most of us do it. So there's no real, you should pay X amount of dollars for it. Okay, any other questions? Okay. If anyone has questions for me afterwards, I'll be around. I have an expediter violation specialist with me, so if you have any specific questions, we can answer those for you. If you want a copy of this that I made, just give me a card, I'll email it to you. It has a lot of good stuff that I can cover with how to get rid of those PVTs, VCBs, and all that stuff.
Can I just ask quickly, since you mentioned expediter?
Yes.
Do you automatically engage your expediter, or would I be responsible to ask you what's going on, why is it taking so long for me to get your expediter?
It depends on the setup. Some of the companies do in-house expediting like I do, some of the companies don't. Some of the companies have separate people. A lot of the building owners who I deal with who have their own internal expediters usually don't get involved in the elevators. The elevator world is very messy when it comes to the elevator. When it comes to the DOB, the elevator division, it's usually a lot messier. Pretty much goes back to the whole pit thing. Let us do what we're really good at, and let the plumbing experts do what they're good at. Okay, any other questions? No? Margie? Thank you.
Mark, everybody said nothing.